though not mine, right? So, I guess I'll go ahead and get us kicked off. First, just want to make sure, does everyone know Commissioner Nichols, myself, Nathan, and Sheriff Mitchell? No. Okay, so we'll take a second to introduce ourselves. My name is Derek DeGroot, one of the Klamath County Commissioners. I've been on the board for just over 8 years now. Born and raised in town. You guys, most of you heard of me. If you haven't met me, you've heard of me. So go ahead.
I'm Andy Nichols, County Commissioner. I've been on the board a whopping 3 months. I live in this district. I live near Bonanza, from Klamath County my whole life. Worked for the Sheriff's Office prior to this Gillies County.
Nathan Bigby, Klamath County Assessor, born and raised in Klamath County, 4th generation here. Happy to answer any questions after this.
Sheriff Shane Mitchell, born and raised in Klamath County, been with the Sheriff's Office 25 years, and then I've taken on the Sheriff role. Okay? Fix what I've done.
Yeah. Billy, you want to?
I'm Billy Stripling, I'm the jail commander. I, born and raised in Klamath, left for a career in the Army, came back 13 years ago. Yeah.
Great. Has everybody had an opportunity to sit in one of these meetings and hear about the district?
No, this is my first time.
First time, so there's some first timers. So,
I got lots of questions.
okay, perfect. Well, we'll do our, I always like, people say that and I say, I got lots of answers, but maybe I have them, maybe I don't, but if I don't, I'll find them. And I think everybody else would say the same. So we can kick off and just give a brief overview of how we got here. If it's all right, I can do that. And then we'll start taking some questions from there, or allow Commissioner Nichols or Sheriff Mitchell to have an opportunity to kind of fill in some gaps where perhaps I left some holes. So approximately, just coming up almost a full year ago now, we had a town hall out in Bonanza. And out that town hall, Ashley will remember, it got sideways. And folks were just real frustrated and real upset at the lack of policing out in East County, period, right? And quite frankly, the message was, we don't feel safe in our own homes. And that's not okay. And I don't want to rehash that whole conversation, but that's kind of it really dialed down into the message is, we don't feel safe, we want you to fix it, why aren't you taking care of us? And really the answer to that question is we're just too thin. There's not dedicated resources out here. So the question I posed at that town hall was, if you guys want us, and when I say us, the Board of Commissioners, to kind of go back, get together with the assessor, get together with the sheriff, and try to come up with something that we can bring to you that would provide kind of that safety that you're looking for. And the answer resoundingly was yes. Everybody raised their hand. And I prefaced it with, guys, it's not free, right? If we do something like that, everything costs money. And the most expensive thing I can tell you in government is people, right? Hiring people is the most expensive thing that we do, and hiring good people costs more. So we went ahead and went back because it was, yes, we'd be willing to take a look at that. We're very interested. So we went back, we sat down, we really started writing things out. And we started with, just like everything else is that you see, kind of a cost per thousand. And I sat down with Nathan, and man, we emailed back and forth, and we ran numbers back and forth. And there's some handouts out here, and we can pass them around. But one of the most interesting things that we found is the majority of the property owners out here are absentee landowners that don't even live anywhere near here. And then we also learned in talking with the sheriff's office is a lot of the calls and talking to the folks out here, a lot of the activity that they were complaining about, that they were fearful of, is coming from those lands. But those lands have very, very little value. So when you did this cost per thousand, still they paid very little. And the backs the cost of putting something together was on the backs of the people. They're out here living right, and that didn't seem quite right. We took a look at all of the different tax lots, and we came up with a per tax lot fee that made it, quite frankly, a lot more fair. That the people that are, in large part of the problem, would pay their fair share in making sure that this community is safe. So that's how it got to where we're at now. 90 some odd dollars a thousand, or excuse me, 90 some odd dollars per tax lot, right? It started out at $72 a tax lot. We came out, we had conversation. One of the things that folks were concerned about was how we treated agricultural lands, because there were some large agricultural lands, so we changed that so that ag producers, which, by the way, I'm in favor of this change. I thought it made a whole lot of sense, and I think it's really fair, could get up to 75% off on agricultural lands, right? So that's how you get to where we are today with it being a per tax lot. Another thing that changed is folks said, well, what if I want to combine my tax lots so that I don't have as big as an exposure every year, right? I have a couple of these other tax lots, us here, y'all that live here. I have 3 lots or I have 4 lots, but I only have a house on one. Can I combine those lots? And the answer is yes. So the board went back, and we just finalized this because we set aside a couple of dollars to cover the cost, and said all of the fees, because it can be really expensive to combine tax lots, right? There's fees associated with all types of things because departments have to pay for themselves and not be supported by the general fund. The general fund, quite frankly, today pays for public safety. That's what it does. And there is no more money there. It's actually that plus $7 million this next year. The cost at the county to combine your tax lots will be free. You do have to prepare a new lot description, so you'll have to work with a surveyor or a professional to prepare that for you. The county cannot do that. We do not have that level of staffing. We just don't have those people that can prepare that. So you'd have to hire your own surveyor to prepare that new, legal description of the property. And then you can turn it in, and from there we'll cover the cost at the county, which is a couple $1,000s per application, but we'll cover that.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
What's a tax lot? Let's start from the beginning.
Okay, a tax lot is a legal tax lot.
Acres or
No, it can be anything. It could be 20 acres, it could be a sliver of a piece of property, but it is the legal description of a piece of property that's been
okay, so
divided.
it's on your little statement.
Yes,
Okay.
right? So you will get a separate tax statement for each tax lot. So if you're getting multiple tax statements, then you have multiple tax lots. If you only have one tax statement, then you're good. You only have one.
So
You're
it's not
good.
based on acres or?
No ma'am, no ma'am. It is a piece of property that has been legally created. So if you go into a subdivision, each house is on its own tax lot.
Do your lots have to be adjoining?
To combine them,
Yes, they do.
yeah.
And they have to be EFU?
No, so you have 2 different ways that we've done that. So you have, that's, what I just described is everything except EFU. If your land is EFU and it's adjoining, you go to Nathan, and he has figured out an administrative way for you to collect those tax lots, up to 4 in one, up to 4 in one, up to 4 in one. They just all have to be on the same map. So there's these section of maps, right? So all of them have to be on that same map, and they have to be adjoining so that he can say, you're going to take these 4 and put it on one. Why were we able to do that? Number one, EFU is just evaluated differently. And why was it important to us to do it that way? The land is your business, right? If you combine all of those, then you have to separate them again, which is very expensive to sell it. So we wanted you to have the ability to go in, see Nathan, say, hey, I want this piece broken off, because I'm gonna sell it. And it doesn't cost you anything. He's able to do that with a, and you're done, right? So EFU, there's no surveyor, there's no cost either way. It's all administrative. Nathan takes care of it, and his folks. Sir.
What about tax lots that are not legal tax lots? I know this exists in this county because when I was going to get my conditional use permit years ago, I had to get proof that all of my lots were legal, created tax lots. And I know for a fact that there are a number of lots in this county that are not legal tax lots. So how do you make the distinction?
So every tax lot has a legal description and a tax lot number. Not all tax lots have legal access, so they were created illegally because they actually don't have access. You can have a tax lot out in the middle of nowhere and no legal right to access it because you have to go through your neighbor's property without permission, or you have to go across some type of public land where there hasn't been a road dedicated or something like that. And that's the majority of the time when you go into planning and they'll say, actually this wasn't created legally. It is a tax lot. You don't have legal access to it. So you need to go back and create legal access to your tax lot. But all tax lots, we do have a tax lot number and are able to assess.
I tax every single tax lot in this county.
Yeah.
Well, that I understand, but there's a huge number of lots out here under Oregon state law can never, ever be developed. In my case,
Because they don't have legal access.
well, no, it's not just legal access. If you use a National Forest Service road for access to your land, under Oregon law, you have to have 240 acres minimum contiguous land if you are west of the Willamette Meridian.
Which means you don't have legal access. Right? That's one way you don't actually have legal access.
Well, that's an interesting thing because not all of Fish Oil Creek Road is owned by the government. When you get to the first cattle guard on Fish Oil Creek Road, that's no longer government land, it's private property all the way to the next cattle guard where it actually enters the national forest. And if you look at the Klamath County tax lot map, all that's privately owned land. So this is.
What I would say is, I don't know every piece of land in Klamath County. I know a lot of them, but I don't know all of them.
I understand.
And why don't we offline have a different conversation about that? But I can tell you, just for sake of this conversation, every tax lot, whether it has legal access or not, is going to be taxed and assessed.
Oh, I know that because most of mine never had legal access.
Yeah. So,
But I have a couple more questions and then I'll shut up for a while.
okay.
This is a screen print from the tax assessor's office that I did yesterday.
Okay.
And this paragraph titled, "Who We Are and What We Do." And it says, someone has ruefully noted, quote, "The assessment and taxation departments are a county government's greatest political liability and its greatest economic asset," unquote. Klamath County has 74 taxing districts and 10 special districts for whom $57 million in property taxes and fees will be collected and to whom that money will be distributed in 2008, 2009. Now, I brought this up to Mr. Bigby, and he says, well, not all of those entities are covered under that. The real number when you put in the volunteer fire districts is closer to $80 million. This is a far cry from the numbers I've heard before. I'm not against police protection. I want to support the sheriff's department. But the real question is, when will this ever end? I'm paraphrasing Representative Werner Reschke from a few years ago. When we had the meetings, we were talking about the library and museum taxation districts. And he warned us at the time. He says, if you let this go through, they'll keep coming back for more and more and more. This is more and more and more. I know Andy has told me on the phone that once they get through with East County, they'll go to North County, then they go to West County, South County. Eventually, the whole county would be covered, except for Klamath Falls, because they have their own police force.
Okay?
You understand my concerns?
I don't know, what's the question though? I mean, I understand what you're saying, but,
When's gonna end? You know, I see more and more of these tax districts coming up.
well, I would
My
say that,
taxes are gonna go up $720 from this alone.
I would say the answer to your question is when we respond, right? So we're your elected representatives. And when we are asked to come up with something to say, we would like a service, let us know what that service costs. It's our job to then tell you, this is what it is. The current taxes does not allow for us to provide that service, there's just not enough money. And I know you put out some big numbers, understand, those aren't the numbers that come to Klamath County to provide emergency services, they're just not.
Oh, I
The
didn't
number
say
that
they
goes
were
to-
all
right.
emergency services.
So, yes,
There
sir.
are your
Okay,
numbers.
my question is this,
Yeah,
who creates Klamath County's budget?
Klamath County, well, so we have a budget committee, the 3 citizen members and the 3 board of commissioners.
That's one question.
Yeah,
The second part of that is, we all pay the sheriff out of our taxes, it goes into the sheriff's department and all that.
Yep.
Why hasn't that budget been increased over the years to add the deputies instead of taking us and put us, first off, where you want to put your office for the sheriffs is not even in the center of this district. Right
We
now,
don't have a place.
an incident happened in my place just about 2 weeks ago, up on where I live,
right.
okay? 2 hours for the sheriff to respond with guns involved,
Mhm.
okay? They
Right.
arrested the wrong guy because they listened to the story that was made up by the crew that was there waiting for 2 hours to tell the sheriff. I witnessed this part,
Right,
okay? The guy that they assaulted wasn't even on the property that they said he was on. They got him off of the property on 5 Mile Road, not on his property. They hit him in the face with a gun and knocked him to the ground. And he came to me on the mountain, worried that they were trying to kill him. And I told him to go back to your place, I'm going down the mountain to find out what's going on. And I'm
so,
telling, everybody needs to understand, when you talk about police districts, and I know you're trying to do what you need to do, I got that, I understand that.
yes,
Okay, but the deal is, the response time from Klamath Falls out here is ridiculous. The response time, I drive it every day from my place to Bonanza, every day. Take my daughter to school and bring her home. It takes me, it's 21 miles to my place. It's still, they will not be there in less than 45 minutes. And as a combat vet, I've been in many, many firefights and all kinds of stuff. When the guns are drawn, it's over within 5 to 10 minutes. He can witness that and knows it, okay? So this needs to be revised. That office should not be in Bonanza. It should be centralized in the county.
I'll answer that one right now.
Okay.
So, right now, Bonanza is willing to provide us with a building to put right there.
My understanding
I don't
that
have
budget
$2
is $1
million
million.
to build a building right now. The county doesn't have $2 million to build a building, but I'll be honest right now, I'm looking at a $3 million grant for infrastructure
Okay.
to build a building somewhere. And basically what it falls into is response to calls. So if I can find property on 140 and I can build a building in the middle of nowhere, that's probably where it's gonna go. But right now, Bonanza's willing to provide us with a building.
Okay, there's other options here too besides building a brand new building and doing all that. I know, the tribal has a new sheriff, okay? They're putting on 5 or 6 deputies for him, and he's willing to work with you guys to help offset part, I don't know what they charge, I have no idea. But he's willing to expand his district to help. That's Chiloquin, Strike River, that takes care of part of that district.
So they're not even part of this district. So they're like OSP. They're free range people.
But they're willing to help and assist, just like Bonanza had Nolan come in and all that different Stuff
Which is the same as OSP. Right now, they're not even certified. They're on policing grants, which could be done in a year.
Okay.
And they're trying to undermine me, taking us for road positions. They want to take up City of Chiloquin.
All I know is they
I'm not
offered.
gonna rely on them for nothing right now.
Okay. All I know is they offered. And there was a statement made by somebody that, in there that I'm not gonna repeat it, but it came out as racist. That they did not want any Indians involved in anything. That's what, and you're elected, I got that statement came from one of the people in Bonanza that's in power, okay?
But what you just said about what happened up at your property, that is the reason why we need more deputies out here.
But there was really no investigation done. They took the story of a person that flat lied to them because his mommy and daddy are lawyers in Klamath Falls. And they attacked him, they pinned him in and hit him in the head with a gun, knocked him down, and he got in his car and took off and he sideswiped side by side, got to my place, worried to death that those guys were gonna come kill him. And they actually chased him up the mountain, looking for him for 15 minutes.
I think that's a great conversation to have with the sheriff after.
I got that, but I'm just saying, that's what I'm trying to say. What's the response time? When you get to Bonanza, what's your response time to Ferguson Mountain?
Look, they're not gonna stay in Bonanza all the time. That's just gonna be a substation where they go type reports, but they should be out of the office, out patrolling everywhere. And that's what I'm doing right now with guys that are on patrol now.
I know, I've seen more activity out there, I got that, I understand, and
That's what I
that's great,
said all
don't
the way
get me
through
wrong.
my forums.
But I'm just looking at the dollars and cents, I'm very conservative, sorry about that.
Me too.
You're talking about $1 million,
Yeah.
okay? And then you turn around and I'm not gonna get any better response time, really.
Well,
Now, unless that guy's
actually,
in the area, if that makes sense. See?
the place that they go, or the station or whatever, do they report there every morning? Do they have to go there first?
They don't have to go there first. If they have reports to do, they can go and sit and type them, but then they leave.
So they can
come on,
go to work in the morning, they just leave their house in their patrol car, and they're out in this area.
come here.
It's not like that they're sitting at that station waiting to be called out somewhere.
How many,
That's
how
best,
many sheriffs
you
will be
know.
on duty at once?
So if this district goes, there's gonna be 1 sergeant, 4 deputies.
But like from
So-
8 to 5, you know, how many are you gonna have?
It depends on the contract, what they wanna do for hours. They're not gonna be all day shift. There should be day shift, swing shift, and if they wanna work nights, because criminals know our system right now. They know when we're working and when we're not. So my theory is, you wanna work a day shift one day and a graveyard the next, as long as they're getting their 40 hours a week, 10-hour shifts.
Would it be realistic to, being that, you know, criminals and crime is on Bly Mountain and honestly the estates and Forever, that's where most of it is. It's, and somewhat Ferguson. Is it reasonable to say that you can have your substation in Bonanza, but then maybe when they're on shift and there's more than 2 of them, one of them is on Bly Mountain and one of them is in the estates for their shift? Because that's where the bad people are.
It's not just there either, it's.
It's everywhere, yeah.
But they're gonna be, they should be everywhere. And I can watch where they're doing that with our body cams, shows me where they're at and where they're spending most of their time at. So as this goes through, I can pull up the computer system, I can take a map of this eastern part, and it'll show red spots or green spots. And the red spots are hot, that's where they're staying majority of the time. And that's easy for me to tell where they're at all the time.
So could they live in, like, Bly? Somebody would live in
If they
Bly?
want to.
You know, I remember Sparky was here. He used to live here in Bly.
I will tell you that my goal is at some point when we do foreclose on a house out
Yeah.
here, is to keep it and try to offer it as incentive or whatever, so we can have deputies living out here.
Yes.
But you gotta remember, recruiting from this pool of East County is going to be difficult. That ideal world, we get somebody born and raised out of Bly to work and lives out there. But that's gonna be difficult, especially in the first couple years.
So right now I have 3 deputies that are local, that are interested in this area. One thing about how this is gonna work, because I'm against putting somebody out here as a resident deputy with no less than more than 5 years. If they have under 5 years experience, I will not put them as a resident. But if they have a group of 5 with a sergeant overseeing them, I don't have to have 5 years experience to have them out here, because now they have somebody to supervise them non-stop.
Makes says.
So when Sparky was here, was he just living out here as himself, as, you know, or was he a deputy?
He
He
was
was
a
our resident deputy.
He was
a
a
resident
resident, yeah.
deputy. So how did they fund him back then?
They just put $100 extra a pay period. to do
So-
the indemnity.
The sheriff's office was clearly more robust, 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
That long?
And just the nature of Oregon and then the nature of the economy, like, the property tax rates are fixed, right? We can't ever adjust those. And it makes no sense, this gets into a bigger argument, but every county, it was at the time when they passed that measure, locked them in at those rates. So we're locked in at this rate, and so we're essentially using the same paycheck as we were 30 years ago to pay for everything. The assessed values can go up 3%. They don't necessarily do that. But then you've got inflation and everything else that's happened over the last several years. And the cost of government. We gotta put gas in the vehicles, heat the buildings, pay the people a fair wage to recruit them there. All that's blown out of the water. And as you heard Commissioner DeGroot say, like, our entire general fund, the cost of law enforcement in this county is more than that. And that's just a budget thing we face.
That's why I was wondering where.
Yeah,
that
I'll
budget
answer
came
your budget question, maybe we'll do a little bit more, just like a kind of brief budget overview. And then maybe kind of finish kind of the how we got here, and then maybe do a little bit more questions, if that works for you guys.
That was just part of what my conversation,
Yeah.
because it really, an incident when it comes to a lot of these crackheads, excuse my French, but they're.
Nah, we speak the same language.
It's gonna be over in a short period of time.
Yeah,
And the guy that really,
but that's,
probably is gonna walk, like, I know with me, I'm gonna walk away and I'm gonna be arrested. And I'm not real happy about that, you know?
sure.
But when they're coming on my property and they're stealing my stuff that I've worked my life for, that's a whole different world.
Yeah, and I would say,
And I don't
just
have
for
a problem
me,
calling the police and saying, come, you know, or anything like that, but
you'd have to talk to them about that. I tell everybody, I'm not a cop,
I know.
never been a cop, don't wanna be a cop.
I'm retired.
God bless these people for doing it, because, I don't want to. I like air conditioning. So,
Well, I mean-
I've gotten soft in my age, but maybe from your budget question, and I think it leads directly into kind of a little bit more of how we got here and why the budget is the way it is, and those types of things.
Yeah, I don't know, I understand when you, the
But-
size of Klamath County, it's one of the largest counties in Oregon anyway.
Right, it says it
And
Delaware.
why that budget is so low, I don't understand that.
Let's talk about that.
It's about timber counties and what
Yeah.
happened in Oregon government in that time period and timber.
So these guys will be.
Take a look at this over here. We're gonna answer your question right now, and I can tell you all of it. So first thing I'm gonna tell you is, you said, why don't you just expand the sheriff's budget? The answer to your question is, we have, all the way to where we're bleeding, right? We will deficit spend, if the budget that we proposed to the budget committee were to pass today, we will deficit spend, right? Spend more than we make, $7.6 million this
That's
year.
what government does.
And it's all of that, right? And the fact is, I could say we're not gonna spend that well, I can't, but the budget committee could say that, and it will close the sheriff's office. Right, so the only reason we're spending reserves, quite frankly, at a rate that's unsustainable, is because we want to try to keep people safe for as long as possible, and it's not the right thing to do. Take a look at this map, this is important. Everybody sees this map? See everything in pink? Right, that's owned by the federal government.
Right.
Everything in pink is owned by the federal government. These lands used to support us, because we cut down trees, right? And those trees provided receipts. 25% of every dollar that was earned by cutting that timber was given to the county. And we took that money and we used it for services. And this happened all over Oregon. And then the federal government, in their infinite wisdom, said, we are no longer going to cut down trees. We're going to take care of critters. And that's how we got there.
Well, I used to fly the warehouse or
That's,
fix it, is that?
but that's the answer to your question, right?
That's what I know.
We do not have the tax base sufficient to cover all of this land because we can't tax it. And no, we no longer use those lands in a responsible way. This is gonna be also box up here for, don't let me, tell me not to. We no longer use those lands in a responsible way to have revenue sharing in order to support county services. All of those trees used to pay for all of our roads. They used to pay for all of our public safety. They used to pay for all of our education. They used to pay for all of those services. We lived off of that timber. We don't anymore. So we get a welfare check from the federal government called Secure Rural Schools right now. And we take all of that money and we use it for roads, schools, and law enforcement.
Since 1980.
Right now, it's not even reauthorized. It's looking like we're gonna get a big fat check of zero, where we used to get $6 million a year. It's only getting worse, right? That's our budget problems, right? That's our budget problems, and we're trying to fix it. It's all your problems, but we're trying to fix it. And if I go to Washington DC again on Sunday, it'll be my 3rd trip this year. And I'm tired of being on an airplane, but I'm out there fighting for water and timber every single trip. And that's all I am. That's all I talk about is water and timber, and they're tired of seeing me. I walk in their office and say, what are you doing back here again? So I'm here talking about water and timber. And they're like, okay. Right? We get it, Commissioner, we get it. We're done talking about it. Locally though, what does that do to our budget? It means that we receive $1.73, this is our budget, right? So this is the county's budget. We receive $1.73 per thousand. 5 cents of that goes to veteran services, off the top. This was something that was decided way before my time, and God bless them for making that decision. I support it wholeheartedly. If we ever decide that we're not a community that supports veterans first, I'm gonna move, right? I'm a veteran just like you, just like him, just like her. It's what I believe in. My son just got out of the Army. That's the first 5 cents comes off the top. So we have $1.68. That $1.68 raises about $11.8 million a year. And last year it raised about $11.8 million. And the year before that it raised about $11.8 million. And quite frankly, we've had great growth in Klamath County. We've increased our tax base, but we've also had huge hits. There's a pipeline that the Department of Revenue decided they didn't want to value the same way. They devalued it by almost $1 billion. That hits us, right? We removed a dam. There's $400,000, right, that the county no longer collects. All of that makes a difference. So if not for the great development and the great successes we've had over the last 5 years, this conversation is much, much worse. And we're working hard to continue that development and continue bringing new jobs and new businesses and new tax base, build more homes, build more companies, all of those things. And that happens. I mean, am I real excited about a wind club coming downtown Klamath Falls? No, but you know what they do? They pay taxes. Right? They're gonna build a great big building and we're gonna charge them a whole lot of money.
Sure.
Right? So that makes me happy because it helps put, just the taxes they pay will pay for 2 deputies. Right? That's a good thing. So when we started boiling down creating a budget for this district, let's get back to this district and why it impacts all of you. We created a budget, this is actually kind of interesting. We thought we were doing really good. So we came up with this great number, and Sheriff said, did you think about this? He needs a vest, and he needs a weapon, and he needs this. And I'm like, okay, well, what's it gonna cost? $1.6 million, right? What does that get you? Like the sheriff said, gets you a sergeant to supervise the folks that are out here. It gets you 4 deputies, and it gets you a code enforcement officer. Why is that important? What's code enforcement? Everybody familiar with the broken window philosophy? Right? So you're driving along town and the miscreants see a broken window. Well, it gives them an idea, why don't we break another one? Now why don't we break another one? Well, these guys can be out here just looking for the broken windows, right? try to make sure that your community looks as nice as possible, because when you look good, you feel good, and you act good, period. And that's what code enforcement does for you, right? So, and it gets rid of all of the stuff that you guys call it. It's like, man, I'm really tired of looking at this or that, or why are these folks out here illegally camping? Code enforcement can help with that, and let the other major crimes, let the police department, right? Let the deputies, let the sheriff take care of that. So when we created that budget, it pays for all of those things, and there's a little bit of room. Why should there be a little bit of room? Well, the cost of all that stuff is going to go up over time. But when we do this as a rate per tax lot, it's not going to go up. And I will tell you, in about 10 years, there's going to be an excess where the cost of providing the goods and the cost of, or the amount that we're able to collect from the district are probably going to hit it. And we're going to have to say, okay, how are we doing? Do we need a little bit more? Do we need a little bit less? Are we doing okay? We're going to have that conversation in about 10 years. Because that's the way this is structured. It's structured to come together in about 10 years where it says the cost of these folks is probably going to be right at that top.
So it won't be capped like with measure 5 or 50, it's not gonna.
It's just going to be the per tax lot fee, and it's going to stay there, and it will never go up.
In order to change it, it would have to go to voters.
Yep.
Yeah, it's by law, Oregon law, you have to change it by voters.
Okay, another thing that I'll say real quick, it's always an up to. The budget committee, the Klamath County provides a budget every year, and you ask the question, who does that? Well, there's 3 citizen members that are from anywhere in the county, and there's the 3 county commissioners. And we sit together with our finance officer and our budget officer, and we come up with a budget, and we meet with all of our electeds, and we meet with all of our department heads, and we argue, and we debate, and we fight until they see it my way.
So if this doesn't work, we'll have like a sundown clause, we can vote on it in another 3 or 4 years?
We would have to put it back on the ballot for you, and you could
It's
vote
not
on
on
it
the
again.
ballot now?
The sundown's not, right, because there's a window that you have to place things on the ballot. It's not before this, not after this
Who
date.
decides to do that?
The county commissioners, right? But let me finish real quick, okay? I promise. I will promise you this, and I think that they all agree. We won't leave until you're done. I don't have a clock. Right? My wife's used to going to bed without me going home. So. This isn't bad. Hang on, just 1 second, okay, sir? So one of the things that was also important, the 3 citizen members for the budget committee for Klamath County are, again, from anywhere, but they're typically from town, right? They're typically from anywhere in town. That's where most of the people are, so that's the greatest pool. But when we talk, that doesn't seem right. That people from town would be making a decision with your money. So in that ballot, or on the ballot, you'll see that it creates another budget committee. And the 3 citizen members have to be from within the district. So there's going to be 6 people making this budget. And 3 of them are going to be y'all. And the other 3 are going to be the people you elected to represent you. So you got quite a voice, right? Nobody that you have are either you or somebody that you voted for making that decision, right? Because I know all of you voted for me.
I voted for
Uh,
3 in here.
So that was also very important, right? So you guys will have that control. If we're sitting in a budget committee and we're having that debate and you say, right, this was a great question, thank you, because you teed this up very well. If the 3 citizen members say, we're not happy, we don't want to charge the $90. Okay, well, I think the first thing we need to do is call timeout, and we need to sit down with the sheriff. And we need to talk about why you're not happy, and see if it's fixable. I think that's the first thing that we should always do, right? We shouldn't overreact.
That's
Just
kind
start cutting
of
budget.
where it hit me.
Right.
My taxes are gonna go up $90. I hadn't been to the meeting because they changed it at different times and canceled out and all that kind of stuff.
We're back. We're gonna have a bunch more. I mean, almost.
That was why. What am I getting for that $90? That's why I asked you, what's your response time? Those
Yeah.
kind of things are important to me
Yes.
because of my background,
Yeah.
number one. I spent 4.5 years in Vietnam in combat, so I know how incidents happen and I know where my point is. And it's always been the same since I got away, and I hate to say this, but if I pull my gun, somebody's gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
And
Hey,
I don't wanna do that. I don't ever want that to happen.
And that's why we're trying to do this, is
Yeah.
get the response time down.
Right. And that's what I'm saying, because really, if you place it in Bonanza, it doesn't help me a whole lot, or it doesn't help Bly at all, really. I mean, it's still gonna be the same distance.
Well,
The cops should be out.
That's what I'm trying to
and
say.
I would argue,
You know, it's just like,
I would argue that they're gonna be the same distance. Driving from Bonanza to here is a lot shorter than driving from Keno to here, if that's where the deputy is.
well, I understand, well, I
You know what
understand
I
that.
mean?
Yeah, I get
So
that.
the response time is gonna be cut down. So there's two things. Number one, there's always somebody available because they work here. Because sometimes you guys know, you call for a cop, there's no one available, right? Well, they might be in Gilchrist on something, or
That's what I'm saying.
there's just nobody to send right now. There'll always be somebody
We
available.
got lights and sirens, we don't have to drive the speed limit.
I noticed they
Well,
come, I noticed they come a lot
I tell
faster
you
if
what,
you
I
tell
can
them
be,
you have a gun out.
from my
Yeah.
house, I can be in Klamath Falls in 35 minutes. And I don't have lights and sirens
You're
either.
gonna have these guys on patrol, they're gonna work a 12-hour shift, or how they gonna work?
No.
But the crooks ain't gonna know if they're here, or over there, where they're gonna be at. They're gonna patrol the whole area for 12 hours a day, or
That
24
answers-
hours.
You're not gonna get 24 hours
No,
with
okay.
the 5 people you have, but those hours should be broken up.
Right, that's good.
But
Well, yeah, you're gonna have, you don't want
You're
anybody
gonna
to know
have,
what your routine
Right.
even though you're gonna have the 5, you're gonna have additional, because I have 2 SROs that do South County, Bonanza, and, so you have 2 additional. And then if something drastically happened out here, the local deputies are still gonna come. But,
Well, yeah.
but you still have 5 designated.
But you also
deputies
have-
that never leave.
You have the state patrol that comes with you.
So I wanna ask you a question on that committee you're talking about real quick. There's 3 of the commissioners, and 3 people that have been appointed or whatever, along with it, makes a 6-person committee.
Yep.
So let's just say, for example, we go down the road 3 years, and the people say, this ain't working worth a damn. This isn't working. We're gonna tell those 3 people, we wanna have a meeting, and this isn't working, we wanna stop this deal. Do you have the authority to stop it?
You, well.
How is it
hang on,
legal,
hang on,
how is
hang
it
on.
legal for you to stop it to go against, if they voted in May?
I can answer that question.
The voters have voted that in, how could that 6-person committee go against all the voters and stop that?
Well, so, there's 2 pieces to your question, right? Because that's not as simple as how you just stop it. The budget committee assesses the taxes every year. All taxes are created up to, all taxes, right? That $1.73, if the county said, man, we hit lotto, we don't need your money this year, we don't have to assess that $1.73. In fact, we could say, I need 80 cents. And that's what we assess, right? So that budget committee makes that decision, and they vote on it and they sign it. And they assess the taxes. Every year, we have to assess the taxes on every taxing district that we're in charge of. Whether that be the county, the library, the museum, because they're voted in by the people, right? So, extension service district, we have to assess those taxes. This would be just like that. Those 6 people would assess those taxes. You could just say, we're just not gonna assess the taxes this year. And it doesn't eliminate the district. Conversely, if you said, this isn't working for us anymore, we want to eliminate the district, we would have to put it back on the ballot, and the people would have to say, yes, we want to dissolve the district. Right, for it to be completely dissolved
So
and
we
never.
wouldn't stop it, it would be back on the ballot.
In order to completely dissolve it, you would have to put it back on the ballot and dissolve the district. Yes.
But the budget committee can vote to collect or reduce collections.
All that stuff.
Not
One of the
even
things that was,
considered.
considered was, instead of, why don't we put it a little bit higher and then just, not collect it all until we need it? I'm like, I don't know if people are quite ready to be that trusting. So, let's wait, we'll do this, let's let it work for 10 years and then we'll see where we're
Do
at.
we already pay taxes now to have law enforcement out here?
You pay taxes that go to the general fund that is decided where it's gonna spend. I will say, yes, you do, however, that general fund has to go, it all goes to public safety. That $1.73 that you pay right now goes to public safety, but it also has to pay to keep the jail open, which you'll continue to do. It also has to pay for juvenile delinquents. It has to pay for the district attorney's office, right? All of those things, you know, the assessor's office, you pay for some administrative functions like assessment and taxation. For the clerk to run elections, those things also have to become our general fund functions. And some of those things just have to occur, right? You have to have elections. I guess you don't, but how would you feel if I said you don't get to vote on anything?
Don't
Right?
understand that.
Yeah,
But-
so-
But if we pass this, are we gonna be double taxed then instead of?
No, no. You will have a dedicated police force just for you and the sheriff to decide how you want to be policed.
That's on our new tax one.
What we're talking about today is a dedicated police force run by the sheriff's office just for you. If I am working for Sheriff Mitchell and I am assigned here, right? He gave me a job, I applied for the job, I work for you. I can't get paid $1 if I'm standing right here. Not $1. That would be against the law. I can't get paid $1 from your money if I'm standing right here. I can only get paid if I'm in the district. So your money can't go anywhere.
There's a caveat though. If there'll be an MOU, say there's an active shooter in Gilchrist or wherever in town, I'm gonna draw every resource I have to solve that situation. So they will respond out, assist, but as soon as it's done, they come right back to the district.
It's the same thing that happens out here,
Yes.
Yeah.
everybody comes.
Everybody comes. So
Right.
I'll let that, children, we just had OIS in December. I had state coming, city coming, all the county, P&P coming. Everybody goes when there's an emergency, it does not matter.
Because it's all hands on deck. Lastly, I'll say this from the budget perspective, and then I'll ask if there's any other budget questions. And then we'll really kind of turn it over to the sheriff a little bit. I'll say that one of the biggest fears, probably the most prevalent budget question that we've had in all of the town halls was, can the county commissioners take this money and spend it somewhere else? What's preventing them from doing that? I like my freedom. That's what's preventing us from doing that. That would be against the law. And you could ask the sheriff to come arrest me if I take your money and spend it somewhere
Could the
else.
governor ask for it?
That brings up the
The
last.
governor cannot ask for it. The president of the United States cannot ask for it. Nobody can ask for it. These dollars, it would be against the law to spend these dollars for anything other than services in the district and only public safety services. I couldn't say, I want to use it for weed control in your district. That too would be against the law. It can only be used for its intended purposes as described on the ballot, right? And within the boundaries described on the ballot. That is all. So that's a big piece that people have had. So now we'll take budget questions. I'm gonna let other people that haven't had a chance yet.
Okay, go ahead.
And then, when we're done with budget questions, the guy with the gun. Yes, sir?
So the apprehension that you get from all this is those things that you talk about, it, the mutual aid stuff is, I work with mutual aid stuff all the time, that's my job, and when you start talking that we're gonna do mutual aid stuff, we all go to travel to Klamath Falls, right? We always see where the sheriff's deputies are in Klamath Falls, and that creates apprehension about this whole thing. Is because I can pull mutual aid for fire and say, I need mutual aid here for whatever incident it is. It don't have to be active shooter, right? So that falls into the Bonanza thing. I really, wherever it is, right? But if it's Bonanza, that's so much closer to Klamath Falls, it's easier to reach.
Right.
That's a mutual aid thing. The mutual aid is what's the closest forces, right? That's easy reach. So there's your apprehension.
Unlike fire though, these forces aren't in Bonanza, they're spread
No,
out. all
I
over
got what you're
But
saying.
if it's
I
a
got
deal
what
with
you're
the deal
saying.
is their sergeant.
I kind of understand again. So if I'm short in UGB or North County, I cannot pull one of these deputies or a sergeant to cover that shift. I have to pay somebody overtime that is working
No,
with.
I get that, and I get what you're saying, and I get what we're saying here. You know, it's kind of like, okay, proof's in the pudding, but we have to have that out there so everybody can visually see this. So there's a certain amount of trust that's going into you for this, you know, and like Jeff said, it comes down to we pay for some of this already, so is everybody else in the county. But that's a big that's a big thing, and you're talking, the community of Hawaii has the highest tax rates in all County. I mean, so you're talking to, we get taxed more than anybody else in County for what the services that we have, you know, fire and all that. So it's a hard sell. It is a hard sell.
So far, I'm doing what I told people I'm gonna do.
I guess my statement is,
Yeah.
if this goes through, proof's in the pudding. That's it.
And I have to prove to the people what I'm talking about. And if I don't, I don't like a fail. And I will not lie to you. I will be upfront, and, you know, people are trying to do me in businesses already in Clinton County, and I'm on their front door. Do not back that me, because I'm coming to your face. And that's the way I am, and I'm gonna tell you upfront the truth, and, you know, if I'm not doing my job, you need to come to me and say, hey, I'm not seeing this happening. And we'll sit down and I'll make it work. And like I said, I was gonna be visible. I have a now drive around in a marked vehicle. The last 4 sheriffs that I worked for drove in an unmarked vehicle, no K, nothing. I have a K, computer, and a marked vehicle now. The deputy's out, I'm backing them up, like I told them I would. I'm still training with them. I'm out handling calls. Plus, I'm doing everything else. I fill those positions. My wife is hating me because I'm grandkids, because I'm not coming home until 6, 7. I leave at 6 in the morning. Because I took an oath to do a job, and that's what I'm doing. And public safety is my first priority, and that's what I'm fighting for.
Well, you know, we talked to everybody about this thing. We've been talking to them now ever since it's been going on. We talked with everybody that has to do with it, and the biggest hurdle that we're up against is not having the sundowner clause in it. Everybody, don't think that you don't do a good job. Everybody thinks you guys are doing the best job that you can for the people that you've got. But when we vote this tax in our minds, this tax is from now till ever. It'll never, ever go off. And everybody says it would be so much easier to get this in and see it happen if we would have put in the deal. We'll vote this in. It's on a trial basis for 3 years, 4 years, whatever. If it stops at the end of 4 years, it's done. If you think we've done a good job, we're gonna vote it right back in again.
And that comes back where your committee is. If you're not seeing it or doing it, put it right back on the ballot, vote it off.
If we can put it back on the ballot, but we're up against this 3
Takes a lot of signatures
people
and a lot of
committee
petitions
and
to
3
get done.
commissioners, and are you telling me if the 3 people go in here and say, we don't like it, and the commissioners say, well, we're gonna use it anyway, who's gonna win?
We can't win.
I don't think that's what she said.
We can't win.
No.
Vote me out of office if I'm not doing what you ask.
Is there any kind of transferability to this money? In other words, are we gonna be able to tell where it's spent?
100%.
You said,
Every cent.
okay,
Where every dollar goes, to what deputy, what car, what equipment, it's a layout.
because he said it's against the law, so if I don't know where you're spending it on, how am I gonna know it's against the law?
You can go on right now.
Public records
You can go
request.
on the county's website right now. There's a link to the budget in ClearGov, and you can see where every cent in the Dane County spent. And this will have its separate, budget showing where everything is
This is the
spent.
biggest I've ever gotten into politics.
Okay.
I'm telling you right now, so.
You're not the only one.
And I'm kind of ignorant on part of it, but I vote every year. But again, and I voted for most of you guys in directors, so it's okay. But I just had those questions, and one of them is, like you said, how do we know that that person's gonna be there? Because that's what everybody's mystery is. We've been promised,
In the 25 years that I worked for the sheriff's office, you would not believe how many 100+ miles an hour I've done out here to do whatever.
I know the last deputy that was out here,
And I will get you guys no matter what.
and I'm just saying, the last last deputy that was out here in this area, never mind, I'm not gonna say no. That's it, okay?
So how many shares does that free up for the rest of Tyler County? Meaning they don't have to watch East County?
Doesn't work like that.
Well,
Well, the rest
well, I
of
will,
it gets
will
to
say
stay
this,
that-
for now, the other ones,
Okay.
but
How
we're
many is
spending reserves to keep all of those gentlemen and ladies employed, and those reserves are gonna be gone here real quick.
that?
So if other folks don't, follow your lead and pass a district, then the answer is gonna be none.
Right, so but my thought is, we're paying extra taxes so we can have our own dedicated, sheriffs here, which is fine. And I don't think anybody actually has a problem with paying $90 a year extra per tax lot for police services, as long as we believe it's gonna work. It's not the money, it's very little money. It's the fact that nobody's got faith in the sheriff's department anymore because of everything that's gone on. And it's the fact that we have just been duped so many times.
Yeah, it's a big hurdle for them.
And that is
You know,
what
and I
It is,
understand
and it's
that,
not
that's why we're here.
And that's why I'm trying to change the culture, and I'm trying to change the perception of the sheriff's office. Like you said, you've seen more deputies and patrols out here, because that's what I said was gonna happen.
Well, I drive the road every day, so I see.
I will say Sheriff Mitchell's not my first sheriff, but I do believe he's the right man for this
I
job,
agree, I didn't think so too.
right? So, if I didn't believe that he could do and come through with what, we're talking about, and deliver on the promise, and deliver this service, I would not be up here. I just wouldn't. I'd be trying to figure out a different way, and I'd be trying to undermine him or something like that, but I'm not gonna do that, because I believe he's the right man for the job.
We're one of these people who are on a fixed income.
But you didn't know him when he was over
$90
this
is
tall.
not big. With all the other inflation going on, that $90 does contribute to what's happening right now.
It sure
in
does,
this world.
I get it.
So we have a motto for that, and calculating that $89 a year is $750 a month,
Yeah.
25 cents
Yeah,
a
but
day.
it's not-
Keeps
it's not
it
that
running all the
much.
way. That's what we've come up with.
Right.
That's 25
So
cents a day.
when you're living on a really tight budget and you have to cancel your extended Medicare program because it's $300 a month and you don't use it. See, so when you're on that kind of a budget, I wanna make sure that we're gonna get the service. And I believe in him and I voted for him, so that's why I.
Well, then it should be good.
So what was explained to me, and what I think is worth noting, is that the cost per year per deputy is, let's say, between $130,000, $140,000 a year. Is that right, Shane?
Yeah, it just went up.
Okay, so what's been happening for a long time with the sheriff's office is they put all this money into training these guys, because it takes a lot of money to get them through all the training and stuff like that. And then every single year, they're faced with the budget shortfalls and they don't know if they have a job from year to year. So they leave and they lose them to other agencies. The state police, they just lose them to other things. And then every year it's just created needing to recruit more, which costs you more money because then you have to start at square one with all of these ones over and over and over again. The thing that would be good here is, if it is in the taxes, at least the deputies that are out here aren't faced with not knowing if there's gonna be enough money to provide that job for
That's a
them.
great
Year
point.
to year to year, there's security with this, and then the Klamath County Sheriff's Department can, they're still gonna have, budget problems and stuff like that, but at least the ones out here, it takes a little while to learn the people in the community, learn the bad guys, just learn the whole routine of everything and stuff, and be a part of the community where you talk to the people and you're actually, visibly here, you talk to them, you come have coffee, they know you, you work together with them, and I think that I have 12 lots, let's throw that out there. I went and sat down with Nathan and see if there any way I can, but I'm still willing to pay that $90 times 12 a year because we've got to start somewhere. And we're gonna learn a lot going through the next 3 years. I mean, it's not gonna happen overnight. We're not gonna start, if it passes in May, it's not gonna happen overnight from, it takes you guys a little while to be able to get people hired, get all the things in motion and stuff as we collect the money. But
And how that, and you're hitting on it, it takes me, if I hire a green deputy, no experience whatsoever, about 1 year. 1 year to get them trained, FTO'd, out working. And it's tough. If I can get a lateral, I can get them out within 4 weeks.
Maybe you need somebody else to train them, what's taking you so long?
State regulations.
What has happened is OSP has taken the majority of all the trainers for the sheriff's office because they're making $100,000 a year to drive around and chase taillights. All the trainers left, so the majority of our patrol deputies are 5 years and below. So they don't have the experience to really be teaching the new hires. So now we're getting I'm getting very particular on the people that we are interviewing. If they're telling me through an interview process, I'm looking at going somewhere in 5 years, they're gone. I will not hire if they're not wanting to dedicate themselves to the sheriff's office. And if they're applying out, I'm very local. I will not send more training to them, I will not send them to trainings, because they're looking at me and I'm not gonna make them look better for another agency now.
But you make a great point. This will be one of the most financially secure law enforcement positions in the county, right? Because it's not the same everywhere else. Everywhere else is having budget conversations where they don't know if they can afford to keep people employed. Klamath County is not immune to that. In fact, we're probably one of the worst. These will be the most secure jobs in the sheriff's office, bar none. I can tell you that. Bar none. So
Coos County right now has no department. They have a sheriff and another sheriff. They are completely out.
Curry County just sent out an email today, they closed down their entire jail, they can only house 16 people in Curry County.
And these are timber counties.
These are all timber counties, that's
Same
exactly what I was gonna say,
problem.
if you
same
think
problem.
we're in trouble, Curry County has the lowest permanent tax rate in the state.
So one thing we haven't hit on in any of these meetings, you get 5 people out here, but I have the local deputy inside. Say we don't get funding for the local. Those people are getting credit, but they have seniority over the people that are out here. That seniority is gonna take over the people that are out here.
So they would, the one out here
So
would be.
they would see this section would still be funded because you were paying for that district.
So that, whatever you had to cut in would come out here
Yeah.
and have that security.
And another thing we haven't hit on is, say this goes through in May, but I can only find 3 people here to get it work here right now. That money still comes, but it keeps building up in the bank. So I can still keep looking to hire these people, we can't pull that anywhere else.
So yeah, we can't take your money anywhere.
Well, that's what my question was.
One question there, and then we're gonna go to the other side of the room. We're gonna try to give everybody else a
I
chance.
understand, I've been waiting for a while.
Yeah.
I want to make sure everybody understands. I have no beef with the sheriff and what he's trying to do, or how he's trying to do it. I look more at the dollars. My understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, when you came to our committee meeting last month, you said that there was offers from our state reps to get state money that would help us out, but you guys didn't want it because there were strings attached.
I will address that. So Representative Reschke told me the state is flush with money, let me see what I can do there. That there wasn't an offer, there wasn't a, we can give you, because I would take it in a heartbeat, but that also makes me nervous. Let me finish. That makes me nervous, and it makes him, should make him even more nervous for a couple reasons. One, there's no security in that, right? Pendulum, you never know, so you can't build a department based on grants or here's a one-time input of money. So there's no security in that. Two, me particularly, and I have never asked the sheriff this, but I would assume he would agree with me, I don't want our sheriff's office reliant on the policies in Salem. So when that supermajority says, oh yeah, here's $1 million or $2 million, but you're gonna do things the way we want, or we pull it back. So I want to find local solutions to local problems, and I don't want Salem in any of our business more than they have to. Does that answer your question?
Some of it.
Okay.
How big do you see the sheriff's budget when you put all of these taxation districts that cover the entire county except Klamath Falls? Because I recall you telling me in a phone conversation, that was the plan. We were first and you were
$13.2 million
13.2.
to cover the whole county.
What's the sheriff's budget right now?
11?
16, no,
$16
way more than we collect.
$17 million.
So we will still have to use general fund to take care of
17
all of
million.
the administrative functions, the jail, all of those other functions.
Search and rescue.
And hopefully not keep going backwards to the point where we're broke.
I mean, my biggest concern with all of this, you've already answered one question. 10 years into the future, you're gonna come back and wanna do this again, because there won't be enough money in 10 years.
That's a guess, by the way. I mean,
Well,
you don't know where that next is gonna hit.
Yes.
That's,
We don't know what's gonna happen with the
Thank you
federal
for calling me.
government regulations and timber and all of that.
Right.
yeah.
Where I'm going is,
Hopefully parts of it.
Will they be able to keep the jail open?
Yeah.
but where I'm
So if we
going,
get more officers out here and they can get more people, what if we're shortfall budget in there, they have to
The
shut.
jail has never been a budget issue and it won't be going forward. We ensure, that is the cornerstone of public safety for everything. We ensure the jail is funded and we will continue to do that. The issue the last year, and the jail commander can talk about that had to do with staffing. And all of us worked really hard to get a plan to correct that.
my big concern, which I was trying to get to, this is just one piece of the pie for this county. We know it's coming, this is the big plan for this time, till the next time when you want to fund something else on the taxpayers, on their tax lots.
I'm gonna step in just for a second.
Okay.
When you say you want to fund something else, this wasn't our idea. We were asked to put this together by the folks that live out here based on a town hall that we had saying, we don't feel safe. Remember at the very beginning, we don't feel safe. Please put something together so that we can have police protection out here so we can feel safe in our homes. And we went home and we did it. I will tell you this, sir, and I all sincerity, and I want to make sure that I'm coming across not in a flippant way. But I don't live out here. So if you vote yes, it protects you. If it votes no, you're not protected. I'm still protected at my house. Right? So, I want to be in the most respectful way. This isn't something that I came up with, or we came up with on our own because we're trying to force something down your throat. This is in response to the needs of the people. And you elect us to be your representative and respond to your requests and respond to your needs. This is what the very, very best plan we could come up with in a year in response to that request. And I sincerely hope this. I sincerely hope that you believe that it is something that is put together with thought, that it is in response to the requests of the folks that live out here, and that it will deliver on the requests that were made. That's all that I can hope, that you believe that we listened, that we came back out, shared it, got some feedback, went back and tweaked it, came back out, listened, got some feedback, went back and tweaked it, and presented you with the very best thing that we possibly could based on what you asked us to do. And I hope that we were able to provide that. At that point, I believe I've done my job because I've responded, Derek, you work for me, go write it. Okay, I work for you, we'll go write it. At the end of the day, now it's your choice. You get to fill in yes or no, right? And because you believe that this provides you with a level of service that makes you feel safe in your home. Because at the end of the day, that's all this is about. This is all about trying to make sure that the number one obligation of a community is for you to feel safe where you live. And then when you're not, we'll try to figure out a solution, and this is the best possible solution we can come up with. And I hate to kind of, but
You
just,
answered my question.
thank you.
Doesn't mean that I always like the answer, but you answered.
Thank you.
Well, we're up against a bunch of things, and two of the main things is nobody wants to pay more taxes.
No, me too.
Nobody wants
Me
to
either.
for some reason.
I live in this district,
We're
I'm
up
a tax
against,
assessor, I want to.
the last 8 years, we have not had a very good sheriff's department. In my opinion, I don't know about anybody else, we have not had a very good one. So we're jumping into a better one right now. but we don't have a track record on it. Not me, I don't need the track record, I know. But there's a lot of people that need to see what the hell's going on different than it did before. Why are we doing this voting in May instead of November?
It was the very first possible one.
I would say this, I have a political science background, and from a political level, the last thing I want to do is put a tax on the ballot in November. Because that's where you're getting your state measures and all your other taxes. Because you probably vote like me, nope, you ain't getting nothing, right? So
You're
this
trying to
gives,
cheat us on it and put it in.
well, but it also gave us focus on this issue to really highlight everything about it and have these conversations. We are being as transparent as possible. By the time we're done with this, we're gonna have had 12, 15 town halls. I answer questions on this every day. I come out to other meetings and end up talking about this. This is not force-fed from the commissioners one bit.
We have coffee every morning between 7 and 9. You guys never come out and talk to us then.
Give me a time to play. I'll come out.
The last deputy who was here had coffee with us 3 days a week.
Well, I can't be out here 3 days a week as a commissioner, but I come out once a month.
So let's look at this too. So if we waited until November, my fiscal year is in June, and they don't fund me next year, we're in trouble. I would not be able to get it up and running. If we can get it now, I can get people hired and put in place. That gives you the rest of the year until next year to keep, I can keep, show it as a model for the next area I'm going to. I have to go to Gilchrist on Monday because they're a little upset that they found out there's a policing district coming in here first and they didn't get brought in. So I have to go up there and explain why we didn't.
I was up there explaining that 2 weeks ago, and they were saying, we want this, we want this, we want this, up north.
So there's 17,855 tax lots in this east side policing district.
Yes,
And you said about 60-some% are from out of state or out of county.
It's like 11,000 something.
11,800
So
and some.
So they don't get to vote on this.
Nope.
But, so in a perfect world, all those lots up there, people actually pay their property taxes. That's not, you know,
We get the
what,
money
what,
eventually.
you
What
do get
happens
it
is
eventually, but.
we foreclose on the property, we sell the property, we could pay back the taxes.
Right, so
at that.
taking that into consideration when you were doing your figuring, you know that you're gonna
Yes.
It's all
not
part of the
collect a
equation.
percentage of that
We have non-collectibles that we're,
every year. But it's a great way to get outside money into our area and use it.
Great.
It is.
Yes.
It really is, and they don't have a say on it.
And I know we did with the money, when he gave me how much, when I did my figures, I took top step, definitely top step, sergeant. So it left me up.
I'm aware of that, but the county
Nobody's gonna
tax
come in
laws.
here at top step.
that's just private.
So as long as what he said,
Those are
and you
actually
said, as long as we feel that if, let's say 3 or 4 years, because you gotta give it some time to work. It's not gonna just be come back in 2 years and say we don't like it. We've gotta get it time to be built up to what the maximum amount, like 4 deputies or whatever it is. As long as we feel that we can, go to those other 3 budget committee members or the commissioners too, and listen to us and say that we're not getting, you know, there's all this money and stuff in there, we don't feel like we're getting, you know, what this was all coming for, you know, what we're supposed to get, then you guys can decide to not.
Yes, and I will say, I'm only one vote, but I would do that, and I'm already, like, I come to their city council, I come to you guys' community action team. I will continue to do that through my tenure, and if in 4 years you're like, this isn't working, I will take your voice and go impose it on my own.
Right, so in a way, that is taking the spot of the sundowner clause.
But it's not
It's
right,
not
but it's
in
not
writing.
writing though.
It's not in writing.
Yeah, well,
You know.
this is what, so kind of walk through this with me real quick and kind of paint you a picture of what the budget committee looks like. Right, so be a table, 2 tables up here like this. There'll be 6 of us sitting here. Me, him, and Kelly, 3 of y'all from somewhere in the district. And how those are selected, people will apply, we'll go through an interview process, we'll make sure that it's somebody that can can help write a budget, that understands a budget, right? We're not gonna have someone that, no crackheads, right? So it's gonna be, right?
No crap.
Right, like again, we speak the same language. And then it's gonna be out here, and there's going to be a public comment process where every single one of you can come and say your piece for 2 or 3 minutes and have us listen to what you think about the district. So that has to happen at least once a year, because we have to pass the budget once a year. So every year you get to voice that, and the citizens get to listen to it, we get to listen to it, and Sheriff Mitchell will get to listen to it. I promise you're next, so you don't have to sit there like that. That's okay.
Interesting side note with that, Derek, is this year's budget committee actually has 2 members from that district.
It's kind of interesting. One of them is a city council member from Bonanza.
And the other one was in Young Valley.
Yeah, the other actually. So it does happen from time to time. Not, it's very uncommon. I will say that. But,
So, the sundown cause, I personally, I think that's a terrible idea. And the reason I think that is because if you put in there, and I was applying for a job that said 5 years, we have to reevaluate before you're gonna have a job, I would probably go,
Sure.
I'm gonna find something more stable.
that's the other piece of that.
Good point.
So, I think that, I see where they're going, but I think that's,
Well,
makes it hard to.
I will say
recruit
it's too
somebody.
late. It's already on the ballot and it's already written. We can't rewrite it, right? So it's gonna go, it's going on the ballot the way it's written. We can't make changes to it. And I will say this, every single person that lives here will have an opportunity every single year to come to the budget hearings and just say their piece. Say thank you for doing a great job, because that's what you're all gonna think.
If it's, like, possible, is it, being that it'll be based in Bonanza, and, I mean, honestly, everybody from Bonanza is pretty much in the sheriff's department, commissioners, it's, you guys kind of take over everything, no offense, but can we have the budget committee not be from Bonanza?
We can,
It's all over.
we can move it every year.
I would just, I think that a lot of people would prefer
Here-
the rest of the East County not to say.
We are limited to what applies. Okay? If 3 people from Bonanza are the only people that apply, guess what we're taking? But if somebody from Beatty, if somebody from Blythe, please apply to that committee. And we would definitely like a wide swath of
We'll
representation.
definitely get some applicants from Spread River.
We want, will
That's
be
right.
in.
One question,
Yes, sir.
on the lots, there are people that own lots in this district that are like up in Portland and.
Or even in Klamath.
Or even in
Florida.
Klamath Falls. Are they gonna get a chance to vote on this?
No.
You have to be out here.
So the way elections work, you have to be a registered voter within the district that you're voting in, right? So, right, and I know all of you are. But just because you own land somewhere else doesn't make you a registered voter there.
And we should
Right.
never want that.
And you can't vote in 2 places, right? I can't buy a piece of property in New
I
Mexico and
thought
vote
it
there.
would be just like a ballot with just that measure on it, they could vote on, just asking.
Nope.
Because I've been in a couple other states where they actually can do that. with the race tax.
Not here. You can only vote where you are registered, the address that you're registered to vote.
Right, and probably a lot of the crackheads that live up there, they might own that property, but I guarantee you they're not registered voters
They ain't
because
gonna
they don't want people to know where they are. I mean,
Yeah, they know.
so,
They will if you tell them they're gonna hire a code enforcement officer.
They
I
still
know
don't.
that. I
Most of
get
them,
yelled at
that's
about
what
it every day.
Luckily, those people don't participate in meetings like this.
They don't know.
so the decision has not been made yet to house the station in Bonanza. So, I mean, it hasn't been, that hasn't
They may
been.
be working out of their cars right now.
Mhm.
Sorry, man, they'll be working out of their cars.
What about that grant you were talking about? What about that $3 million grant?
It's not a for sure. We're working on it right now and trying to implement that in. But
The only thing I would like to see out of that is you get the grant, have it more centrally located in the district itself.
I
That's-
agree with you.
Yeah, because that way.
Maybe
response
on
time,
140
it's gonna
somewhere.
become pretty.
Yeah, I got some
equal
property
out
out there you could build it on if I don't have to pay taxes.
Tax write-off.
how I look at it, if we build that on the grant, it's gonna be the sheriff's office property in grant. Because nothing against you, that, I don't want to be letting Julie County to have property on.
You can't find like repossessed
Okay.
property, repossessed property.
Potentially.
Instead of
We-
building,
Potentially you can, but the people that let their property get repossessed, they're It's not very viable most of the time. So,
Takes more to clean it up than it's worth.
exactly.
A lot of times.
And those of you that don't know me, my name's Ashley Pence Peterson. I'm from the town of Bonanza and on town council. We don't want this to be the town of Bonanza police. And really the first town hall the commissioner group started with was with the previous sheriff, and we had called and said that there's a problem, we're having an issue. We're kind of told this is a Bonanza problem. We brought it to the commissioners and they said, let's do a town hall. So we did a town hall and filled the Bonanza gym, and lo and behold, it wasn't just people from the town of Bonanza that were having issues with law enforcement, and that's really where this idea got started for the whole of East County. And every one of our meetings, we always said, this needs to be extended, it needs to go to the Lake County line, we need to start including everybody from out here. I grew up out here, I've been out around a lot of these places, have friends from Bly and Beatty, and stayed out here a lot. It's a problem everywhere, and the reason, we have an empty building. We got a grant to build a shop, and it's just sitting there right now. So if it needed a place to go, there's a place to park a car in Bonanza right now. We agree that it's not the most centrally located place, but
it would be somewhere for right now.
it would be
until
somewhere for right
something
now
else comes
for it
up.
to go, and, this hits home. Everyone's had tragedy. Bonanza's lost 2 high school kids recently, this is something that hits home, and we want to do something that takes care of East County instead of relying on all of the rest of the county and having stable funding. I mean, we have, as the town of Bonanza, we can only get police to govern the town of Bonanza, and we're having a hard enough time to even get that. Thankfully, the sheriff's office has been out there, we get state police, but, our contract with Mullen doesn't happen anymore. We've been working on some stuff, but, that's our goal, why we've showed up to all the town halls. This is not about us, it's not the Bonanza police force, it really is East County, but we want to be here to show our support and say that. This is not just
When did
for
you build
us.
the building?
Our building just got finished a month ago, 2 months ago. It's pretty new. It's the one right behind, if you're sitting looking at Bonanza School and you look south, it's right next to town hall.
Yeah, it's right there.
Yep, we just built that shop. So we got a grant to build that shop, and it took way longer than we wanted it to get built, but it's built now.
One of the things that we brought up as a frustrating thing to us is, it doesn't do you any good to arrest people out here because you take them to the jail and then they beat you home. You're not able to, it's frustrating for us to see the same repeat offenders and stuff over and over again, and nothing seems to happen. But I do know that our last town hall meeting,
Yeah.
at that point, you just had one part of the jail open.
I now have 2 open. I put my people, the sheriff and I sat down, and the undersheriff came up with, I put my people on 12-hour shifts so that we could spread them out a little thinner in order to do that. So I now have room for just under 100 people versus before it was 55. I have 5 people currently in the academy, and I have 3 more to hire. And then I will be fully staffed, so by August, if the Lord willing and the creek don't rise, I can get them all trained, and by August, the entire jail will be open. Now, one thing I spoke about the last time that some of you may not be aware of, there are laws out there that the lovely people up in Salem passed that dictate to me who I can keep in jail. Without calling it bail reform, basically that's what it is. Because it's not fair, because I have money and I can post my bail, I don't have to stay in jail, but you don't have money and you can't post bail, so you have to stay in jail. So they came up with a list of people that tells me if they have these charges, out the door they go.
An example on that one, had a detective going to arrest somebody this week, criminal mistreatment 1, that 1, both felony charges. They're like, we're just going to cite you, and they said, no, you're not. Take her to the jail, she's in her late 60s, I don't care how old you are, you will go to jail. And she was starting to walk down the road, and they released her, because we could not hold her because of the state requirements.
At least it's an inconvenience, it gets them a drive from here to there, and then they gotta figure out their own drive back.
But along those lines, if we do have the dedicated policing out here, that person, right now, they're coming back out and it's 2-3 months before we contact them again, right? But if we have dedicated policing, they're out here acting out of line, they're gonna go right back, and they're gonna go right back. And within his matrix, I think there's room, they keep coming back, well, now we can.
But there is different rules, and I'm gonna tell you a really quick little story with the previous sheriff. They stole a fuel tank up here in the woods, and they brought it down right by my place, they wrecked it. They blew all the tires out on the pickup, they drove it down the road, and I didn't know what the hell was going on. And they went up Pinecrest, John come by, I was doing the auction, John come by and said, hey, them guys are up there at the Pinecrest, and the pickup's sitting there, they're loading it on a trailer. And I had already called the cops about the tank. Somebody came out that I didn't know, but he was doing out some kind of paperwork. I said, they're up here right now, we gotta go get them. He said, let me do the paperwork. I said, I'm going right now. And I took off and I went up there and I pulled right in front of those guys. There was 5 of them. One of them was our friend Justin Boers. And then we have a number of them that was with him. And he says, hey Jeff, how you doing? And I said, I don't know yet. I'll tell you in a minute. They were winching that pickup on the trailer that they stole from Nature Conservancy. They unloaded the 4-wheeler and put it on the flatbed that they stole from Nature Conservancy. The sheriff came there and I waited the entire
The
time.
sheriff, it was a deputy.
A deputy. Took all of their names, all of the stuff, the license number on everything, and let them drive off with all of it. Because he said he couldn't do nothing about it until they investigated it.
Because Horseman is.
We knew it was. We knew it was stolen. They wrecked the tank, they did everything. So I guess what I'm saying was I don't know if it was the sheriff's office or what they got, but if they don't have no more control over thieves than that, what are we gonna do?
So, I know a little bit about that one. They didn't know who it comes from, they couldn't get a hold of who the victim was at that time. So without a victim, we can't make an arrest on it. I know all of them were arrested but one after that. And one of them went to prison. So I do know that. But if we don't have a victim at the time, we can't make an arrest. That's.
Anytime I see Justin Boers, I put him.
And if you look at the lines now, when they first came to me, that map was smaller. I created that map bigger because it goes down to the state line. Boersman now is going to Maryland, Lynn, Tule Lake. So why should I send deputies from town to investigate somebody that's working, living in your area, stealing down there? So that's why we made that bigger, so that the deputies in your district are currently just working.
I just mean we have to arrest them. Even if we had a deputy out there, they can't arrest them.
It's frustrating, it's frustrating.
Oh, yeah.
Because,
And a lot of
Cracked through
deputies
a
know
recognized
that.
truck about a month ago. And I saw him the other day, walking down Main Street. I mean, it happens to all of us. We're not immune either. If my wife wasn't with me, we would have done something. She doesn't like it.
Can't a citizen do a citizen's arrest if they know for a fact a crime's been committed?
You can do a citizen's
And then
arrest.
is the sheriff's deputy required to take that person into custody?
You have a paper that you signed, that you did, but you can't just take them from one place to another, now you can get yourself in trouble. And that goes back to your question about, you have the right to protect your property, persons, others. Even though you're justified to shoot that person, and you go through the court system and say, yep, you justified, you still have the civil lawsuit that can come and bite you.
Right. And citizens arrest, I'm sure the sheriff would say it, but me as a former law enforcement guy, I would caution you very much because most of your criminals aren't gonna let a citizen arrest them. And then you're getting into a force issue and then lawsuits and everything else.
According to the Constitution and everything else, if I feel threatened, I have the right to take their life.
Yes, everybody has the inherent right to
There's an amendment and all kinds of
self-defense.
stuff that says that.
Yes, sir.
And you're right, you're still open to a civil
On
lawsuit.
your property.
If it's on my property, yeah, it has to be on my property.
You can't do it downtown.
You can't shoot them out there and throw them in.
Question in the back.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
And this has weighed on me for 4 or 5 years now. So it wasn't you. I lived right over here. And there was another guy that lived in one of the other little apartments. He was coming after me with a pitchfork. I called 911 because I didn't know what else to do. I was told point blank, they would not come here for me.
So did you talk to 911 or a deputy?
Whoever answered when I called.
So that's gonna be 911. So I.
They told me it was
they-
too far for them to come
Right.
over something like that.
They told you to know, right?
When he came over and threatened me, I pulled my gun and said, get off my property or I'll blow your brains out.
We got a new sheriff.
That's it.
Well, I'm kind of simple. I want to know, is that kind of stuff going to be addressed now
And it is right now.
out in this
Very
area?
drastically.
Because I don't live here anymore. I live on Beaver Mountain, but I just want to
So
know.
how it has been before, because deputies think the major call volume is in UGB. But if they're gonna respond to that same call here in Bly, or in Clement, they should respond to that same call in Bly. And that's my mentality, get your ass out of the office, respond, handle the calls that you're being dealt with.
Well,
I
especially,
told them if it didn't get handled before my daughter got home from school, he was not walking away. I was.
And all you gotta do is articulate correctly why you're in fear for your safety.
I mean, I actually had to call that 1-800-273-TALK for veterans, for someone to talk me off the ledge because it was ticking closer and closer to time for my daughter to get home from school. Now, if I have a problem with somebody, we can work it out between us, however it works out. But my daughter is there, and I feel that my daughter is gonna be threatened in any way, I'm gonna end it. Because I have the training to do that. I've never done it, but I will to protect my daughter.
And that's why I explained to him, you have the right to protect yourself, others, and your property. But you may be
Civil law.
justified in the civil law.
I think your story, though, is a great example of why this would be a helpful tool. Because right now, you have 3 deputies, 3 patrol deputies working all 6,200 square miles of Klamath County. That's not much.
No.
And you could have two of them have to respond to some sort of incident where they gotta arrest somebody. So you could have 2 in Gilcrest dealing with the domestic violence. And you could have 1 in Keno dealing with a fight or something. And you call 911, maybe that's why the operator's saying, no one's coming, because there is nobody available.
Well, if she'd have told me nobody was
I-
available, that was
I'm not,
different to me.
I don't want to pick that apart because I don't know the details.
I know.
I'm just giving a hypothetical of why that could happen, because they're prioritizing, and if we've got 3 or 4 assaults going on and maybe an assault happened, but they're broke up, that's going to be probably the last one they go to. But if we have these dedicated people, now you're getting that service.
I eventually called the landlord, and she called him, and within a month he left. So, I mean, I don't know why,
they kicked him out.
I don't know, because I found out later.
Long story short, for yours, you should have made a complaint to the sheriff's office, 42981, and it would have been dealt with and handled.
I didn't know,
Well, I think when you
I've
came
never
over
been
and gave me a
involved
bad
with
time
these
about it, I
things.
kinda handled it. You have to stay away, so. That's him.
Is everybody feeling like they understand the district and they feel like they have a good handle on what it is, what the cost is, why it's written the way it is, and what kind of service it's gonna provide?
What is the cost now? Did we go up from 89? Are we going up again?
No, I think whatever you put on the